I'm a pet blogger. I was live streaming, playing dead to test my dog, when I saw him stand up and light a cigarette. Top comment from viewers: "Dog, is she really dead? Guess I can stop pretending." After that, I blew up online by posting videos of his eerily human-like behavior. I was grinning from ear to ear every day, until another pet blogger connected with me on a live stream. He looked pale and asked me, "Your dog, does he have a suture line on his back?" I was petting Lucky's head, and his question kind of threw me. "Yeah, he has stitches." "Why?" "My Lucky is a big Alaskan Malamute. 6 months ago, I was almost in a car accident, and Lucky nearly died saving me. He barely pulled through after emergency surgery, and it left him with a lot of scars. Especially on his back, there's a long incision line from his head to his tail. At first, I thought it was a bit strange. What kind of surgery would need such a huge cut? But the vet said Lucky's spine was fractured and needed to be stabilized. I didn't ask any more questions after that and even sent the vet clinic a thank you gift. "Oh, nothing. The man on the live stream, holding a Maltese, shook his head. The streamer's name was Mark, and he was in the same niche as me. But he wasn't as popular or well known. He stared blankly for a moment, then pointed a finger at the dark circles under his eyes. "I know this sounds crazy. Your dog visited me in a dream." The moment Mark said that, the chat exploded. "What? A dog sending dream messages? Don't only dead people do that? Is this some new kind of clickbait stunt?" I stared at the screen, hugging Lucky, and slowly, dumbfoundedly, managed an "Huh? Was I dreaming, or was he?" "It was Lucky. He asked me to give you a message." Seeing my disbelief, Mark anxiously pulled out a piece of paper and started drawing. "It's true, I dreamed it all. Look, isn't this your house?" It was an exact match. "Yeah, that's my house, but..." The viewers in the chat were going wild. "Fake, right? Christina shows her house in her streams all the time." "Exactly, what does that prove? A dog sending messages in dreams? Can this guy speak dog or something?" For the next 10 minutes or so, Mark described my house layout in meticulous detail. Down to which drawer I kept my underwear in. "And lately, you've started growing hair all over your body like crazy. It's growing really fast, all fine and downy. Your nails are growing fast too." He even accurately described various habits Lucky and I had. "Do you have a hidden camera in my house?" I said, my scalp tingling as I clutched Lucky tighter. My brain had just crashed. I decided to sweep for cameras after the stream. The number of viewers surged, and the gossip-hungry audience was buzzing. He knows so much detail. Could it really be a dream message? Maybe there really is a camera. This is creepy, I've got goosebumps. Woof woof. Lucky snuggled closer, licking my face to comfort me. Just as I was starting to feel a bit better, I saw Mark's face on the screen turn deathly pale. He shivered. "Please, I'm begging you, stop streaming. Just for a few days, stop." His little Maltese had just woken up, and when it looked at the screen, it suddenly started barking furiously. Mark looked flustered trying to hold it. "Stay away from your dog. Stop streaming, remember, stop streaming." The Maltese lunged at the screen, in an aggressive, alert posture. In the chaos, Mark abruptly ended the stream, leaving me completely bewildered, along with the viewers spamming question marks in the chat. Are people using black magic to take down competitors now? LOL, making up stories to get a blogger to stop streaming. But he really knew what her house looked like. So creepy, is this guy some kind of psycho? I continued streaming until midnight as usual. When I ended the stream, I received a private message from Mark with his phone number. And another message: "Please call me after you're done streaming." Hey, don't put me on speaker, and get away from the dog. The moment I dialed, Mark's urgent voice came through. Okay. In the pitch-black room, I pressed the phone to my ear. I glanced quizzically at the large form of Lucky on the floor. "Your dog told me in a dream." He lowered his voice and said, word by word. "The dog you have now is not human." In the darkness, I saw Lucky's eyes gleam. Hearing that, a chill ran down my spine. I needed to get my head straight. What? The dog I have now isn't human? A dog is a dog, of course it's not human. The dog I have now, does that mean there was an old dog? Wait, how did Lucky communicate with you in barks? I asked, completely muddled. The floorboards creaked with a pat 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 sound. It was a chubby Lucky, running over. My heart skipped a beat, and I almost instinctively hung up the phone. Touching his soft fur, I felt a shiver of fear. Before bed, I started to think it was all ridiculous. Suspecting my own dog wasn't a dog because of some random internet stranger. I wanted to sleep normally, but my mind was a chaotic mess of nightmares. The next day, watching Lucky sprawled on the sofa from a distance, a terrifying thought popped into my head. Could Lucky actually be a person? Ugh, like during the surgery, he skinned a dog and sewed its pelt onto himself. I muttered, and the more I looked at Lucky, the more horrified I felt. But the dream message, why was it the dog you have now isn't human? Woof woof. Lucky barked, playing with a ball. The more I looked at his doggy face, the more it resembled a human face. A man's face. I started frantically searching for dog pictures, secretly comparing them to Lucky. Along with the fear, I felt a wave of guilt and absurdity. After all, Lucky wasn't just my life-saving hero dog, he was the pillar of my career. Today's live stream started as usual. The content was a reaction video to submissions from my back end. Basically, watching videos sent by fans and recording my live reactions. Woof woof. Lucky watched a video of a beautiful woman dancing, his tongue lolling out happily. His face was pressed against the screen, and he kept running in circles. OMG, so cute. Hahaha, even dogs love watching pretty girls. My face stiff, I switched to a transformation video of a handsome guy. Lucky's face immediately drooped, and he used his paw to switch the video back. The comedic timing was perfect. Hahaha, Lucky only likes pretty girls. Dogs love pretty girls, I love pretty girls, so that basically makes me your dog, Christina. Lucky is so smart, no wonder he's the most human-like dog on the internet. The number of viewers kept climbing, but all I felt was fear. Maybe I'd been blinded by affection before. Only now did I notice that Lucky's human-like intelligence was a bit too much. He was genuinely like a person. With a heavy heart, I opened up my past videos with Lucky. Live stream recording, playing dead to test dog, he stands up and lights a cigarette. Lucky doing the classic couch potato slouch on the sofa. Lucky secretly taking photos of owner with a phone. Dog steals underwear. Woke up late at night to find dog holding a butcher knife. Top comment, the probability of a dog murdering you is low, but never zero. The more I watched, the colder I felt. Viewers in the chat gradually noticed something was wrong with me. OMG, Christina, you look terrible. You okay? I'm fine, probably just a little sleep deprived. I replied, casually turning on the beauty filter in the streaming software. Strange. For some reason, no matter how I adjusted it, the filter wouldn't apply to my face. I'm dying. The chat started scrolling crazily again. That's when I realized the face recognition for the beauty filter was on Lucky's face. It wasn't even on mine. I was completely stunned, until I saw Lucky slowly turn his head. He twitched his lips, giving me an extremely lewd grin. I screamed, grabbing my phone and fleeing to my bedroom. My mind a total mess. I got a message from a friend. "Sweetie, what's wrong? Can you still make the collab stream tomorrow? We're counting on you and Lucky to carry the show." I held my phone, breaking out in a cold sweat. A few days ago, I'd agreed with several other pet bloggers to do a group live stream. The theme was hidden cameras, pretending to be dead, and then seeing how our dogs reacted. This was definitely Lucky's forte. The stream wouldn't work without him. "No problem, I can make it." After replying, I shakily turned off my phone screen. I'd been really on edge lately. A perfectly normal dog, how could it be a person? Still, I was a little worried about tomorrow's stream. Would Lucky do something shocking again? My phone lit up again. It was a message from Mark. We had added each other on our socials. "Is your dog still shedding?" After a pause, he sent a long string of messages. "Lucky visited me in a dream again. He wants you to feel the dog's skin, tug on its fur. Especially around the stitches." I couldn't keep second-guessing myself. To get to the bottom of it, the next morning, I took Lucky to the vet. Who knows dogs better than a veterinarian, right? Lucky's perfectly healthy, doesn't even have a cavity. The vet petted Lucky's head and pried open his mouth for me to see. Lucky wagged his tail happily. "Ahem, are you sure Lucky is a dog?" I found it hard to say, looking away awkwardly. "I mean, is it possible this dog is actually a person, wearing a dog skin?" The vet stunned, then burst out laughing. "Ha ha ha, young lady, been reading too many horror novels?" She pried his mouth open again, then picked up his paw to show me the pads. "Look at this tongue and these paws. How could that be a person?" I was torn and still uneasy. "Can we get an X-ray?" I felt much better after coming back from the vet. Although the X-rays wouldn't be ready until the afternoon, the vet's words had been very reassuring. Thank goodness nothing was wrong. After all, I couldn't afford to lose Lucky, both emotionally and financially. Before starting the stream, I shaved and trimmed my nails. I didn't know if it was psychological or a hormonal imbalance. Ever since Mark brought it up on the last stream, my body hair had indeed been growing very quickly. How did he know that? I checked, there are no cameras. I mumbled, then suddenly shivered. Could it be a pinhole camera? I looked around in fear. Knowing my own intelligence and observation skills weren't the best, I decided to get a professional to check later. The collab stream started as planned. I was on screen with 3 other bloggers, doing the Play Dead to Trick Your Dog stream. A huge number of viewers flooded the chat. Ha ha ha, I still remember Lucky lighting that cigarette last time. So excited, what will Lucky do this time? Honestly, I was also curious about how Lucky would react. After confirming the camera placement, I lay flat on the floor and closed my eyes tightly. Nothing. I couldn't see what was happening, only listen. After about 5 minutes of silence, I finally heard the sound of a dog running. The sound got closer, and then I felt a warmth by my leg. Lucky was licking my exposed ankle. For some reason, a wave of nausea washed over me. Maybe I still subconsciously thought Lucky was some creepy guy. Woof woof. He barked twice, and when I didn't react, he started pulling up my pant leg. I was wearing loose pants, and he could easily pull them up to my thigh. Lucky tugged for a while, until almost my entire leg was exposed. Then he started licking it, bit by bit. At one point, it felt like something pricked my leg, but the pain was very faint. I even wondered if it was a hallucination. By the time he had licked my entire leg, I felt like I was going to throw up. Even if Lucky was just a dog, I already felt sick. The stream was still going, and Lucky left for a bit. 2 or 3 minutes later, I felt a paw on my stomach. He seemed to be biting my shirt. Oh my God, Lucky was trying to lift my shirt. Back in your cage. I sprang up from the floor, adjusting my clothes and shouting. Somewhat freaking out, I picked up my phone and looked at the chaotic chat. Whoa, pervy dog. Which dude got reincarnated as this dog? The Play Dead prank was cut short. After chatting with fans for a while, I ended the stream. It was dark outside. A glance at the clock showed it was already 7 p.m. The vet clinic was probably closed. I was annoyed, belatedly realizing my back was drenched in cold sweat. Something was definitely wrong with either Lucky or me. Woof woof woof. Lost in thought, Lucky's barks brought me back to reality. I'd been so on edge these past 2 days, I hadn't walked him. He was desperate. I took Lucky to the nearby park. At the same time, I started researching how to find pinhole cameras. Am I really losing my mind? I hung my head, and a small Maltese entered my field of vision. Woof 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 woof. It was barking like crazy. The dog was on a leash, but it looked like its teeth were about to fly out. I looked up and saw a familiar face. What are you doing here? Mark's eyes widened slightly when he saw me. A stranger who knew my house intimately, appearing near my home. My muddled brain suddenly had a thought. This guy couldn't actually be a psycho, could he? Oh crap, run. I grabbed Lucky and bolted, not daring to look back. Halfway through my escape, my phone rang. It was Mark. I honestly didn't know you lived here. He sighed. You've seen Snowy before. My mom usually walks him. I had indeed seen a Maltese named Snowy. After confirming his mom's name and appearance, I verified Mark's identity. It was already dark. We sat awkwardly on a park bench. The 2 dogs were within sight, leashed separately. You, didn't check the stitches, did you? I glanced at Mark, feeling a bit guilty. Well, that whole thing is just... I decided to just give up trying to explain. Didn't look. I admit my brain's not working right. Mark's silence was deafening. He pointed to his heavy dark circles and told me what he'd been through lately. For the past 7 days, he'd dreamed of Lucky every night and couldn't sleep well at all. Given the current situation, it was probably because Snowy had seen Lucky, which was affecting him. The spiritualist he consulted said the only way to solve it was to fulfill Lucky's last wish and deliver the message to me. And that's what led to the incident a few days ago. Lucky, is he really dead? We were silent for a moment, then Mark looked at Lucky, who was a short distance away. He's asleep. Let's go take a look. I nodded, my heart pounding as I stood up. If the current Lucky wasn't a dog, and not a person, then what could it be? Lucky said in the dream, feel the dog's skin, tug its fur. Especially the stitches. I squatted beside Lucky, and my phone buzzed with a message from Mark. Our communication couldn't be overheard by Lucky. It was already dark, but luckily the park's streetlights were very bright. Mark stood directly in front of Lucky, responsible for keeping him calm. I reached for his back. The moment I parted the fur and touched the stitched area, my hand started shaking. I was scared. Under the light, the suture line looked perfectly normal. The old wound had become a flesh-colored, raised scar. I moved on to touch other parts of the dog, planning to examine the stitches last. As my hand moved inch by inch, my eyes suddenly widened. There's more than one suture line. On his legs, his neck, so many places. This didn't make sense. Even if he'd been in a car accident, he wouldn't need so many incisions, so many stitches, right? He's so fat, they're hidden in the folds of his skin. You can't even feel them if you don't look closely. Mark ran his hand over the areas I had touched. Then, he looked up at me and started typing. These stitches, don't they look like a doll's? The hair on my arm stood on end. What do you mean? Mark sent a string of ellipses. My hand moved to Lucky's chest, pressing gently. It feels weird, kind of sandy. Mark felt it too, then pinched a layer of skin on the dog's back. I did the same, but I was terrified. The dog's skin didn't seem connected to the flesh, there was like a layer of air in between. It's so obvious, you never noticed before? A puppy that survived a serious car accident, I treated him like royalty. Mark's expression was grave as he pointed to the longest suture-lined scar on Lucky's back. I took a deep breath and carefully examined it. It was just a raised scar. I swallowed hard, practically pressing my eye against it. The moment I saw it clearly, goosebumps covered my entire body. The scar is fake. It's sewn on. It's made of a flesh-colored, gel-like fine thread, slightly melted together. I have excellent eyesight, and I've been with Lucky day and night, but I hadn't noticed anything in 6 months. Who could sew like that? Why would they do it? Mark fumbled for his keychain and handed me the nail clippers on it. Want to try and pick it open? I took the nail clippers, swallowing several times. Aiming at a fine thread on the suture line, I gently picked at it. What on earth was this dog? I held my breath, my heart pounding. Pinching the nail clippers, I carefully used the blade to scrape at the fine thread. Lucky was sound asleep, even snoring. I covered my mouth, so nervous I felt like I was going to puke. With a final movement, the fine thread snapped. Mark gently pulled the skin on the dog's back to either side. That suture-lined scar slowly opened up from the break. What was hidden inside the dog's skin was. Once my eyes focused, I clamped my hand over my mouth. The opening revealed a shriveled, dark, withered torso. It was a section of spine, with oily skin stretched tightly over it, rising and falling rhythmically with its breath. What is this thing? Its tongue, mouth, and paws were a dog's, yet its mannerisms were human-like. This exposed part looked like human skin and a human spine. The stitching on its back was incredibly intricate. The fineness and density were unlikely to be a vet's work. It felt like only a professional embroiderer would have such skill. Mark looked terrible too, his eyes wide. We both stared at that patch of skin for about a minute, stunned. I came back to my senses, pinched the thread, and pulled the opening tight. Mark and I made eye contact for a moment. Then, as quickly as possible, we got Lucky back home. Half an hour later, Mark and I were at a roadside stall, eating spicy noodles. I shoveled food into my mouth, but couldn't taste a thing. I want to call the cops. I couldn't imagine what kind of thing was inside that dog's skin. After thinking it over, calling the police seemed like the best option. Mark was stunned for a moment, then nodded firmly. Okay, but what if it's not natural? I held my bowl and sipped some hot soup. It's definitely not human. But if you can touch it, a couple of bullets would probably hurt it. Mark looked helpless and managed a small smile. In the end, we decided to get the X-rays in the morning and then go to the police. At the same time, Mark would contact a few spiritual experts to try and figure out what this thing was. We decided to believe in both modern weapons and ancient magic. As we were finishing up, Mark spoke slowly. Christina, does he usually shed? I wiped my mouth and shook my head. Nope. For such a big, fluffy dog, he basically never shed. Normally, he should be shedding like crazy in the summer. I recalled, my expression complicated. His fur is like it's nailed into his pores, it doesn't come out at all. I always just thought it was his constitution. Mark rested his chin on his hand, seemingly deep in thought. Mark? He suddenly snapped back to reality, his face a sickly green, like he'd eaten a bitter melon. I'll tell you when I'm sure. I pouted. Knowing my brain wouldn't figure it out anyway, I dropped it. Christina, have you noticed something strange? Huh? Mark dipped his chopsticks in the soup and drew on the table. Lucky is a very fat Alaskan Malamute. But when we pulled back the skin on his back, the thing inside was extremely emaciated. He drew a circle on his little diagram. So, between the outer skin and the monster. That padding we thought was fat, what is it? My mind went blank. Hearing this, my scalp tingled, and a shiver ran down my spine. Mark continued. And Lucky's back is also very fat. We didn't see that thing when we pulled the skin apart. It's very possible this substance can move. I felt completely unwell. What on earth is it? Mark looked at me, his expression utterly serious. Think about when you touched Lucky's chest, that sandy feeling. What do you think you were touching? Remembering that sensation, goosebumps instantly crawled up my arm. That feeling, like tiny little grains. A sandy feeling, like hard shells rubbing against each other. Maybe, insect eggs? I shivered and shook my head frantically. I can't think about it anymore. If I do, I really won't be able to sleep tonight. I spent the night at a hotel. I had just woken up when Mark called. Bad news, we can't call the police. Good news, the spiritualist is free today and can see us. After getting up, I first went to the vet to pick up the X-rays, then met up with Mark and the spiritualist. The spiritualist's advice was that we knew nothing about the monster and couldn't startle it. Not only could we not call the police, but I even had to go back and act normally around it. Only after we figured out its purpose and origin would we know how to deal with it. Mark, is this spiritualist of yours legit? I whispered, covering my mouth. As soon as I asked, I looked up and saw the old man staring at me. He coughed seriously twice. Young lady, I heard about your situation from Mark. He pointed to my leg, smiling kindly. Haven't you looked at your own legs today? Confused, I pulled up my pant leg, and then I was speechless. What was happening? Both my legs were covered in fine, dense hair. The hair was very soft and thin, not even like body hair, more like dog fur. The spiritualist smiled genuinely. You've all been thinking, is there a person hidden inside the dog skin, but you never considered another possibility. Mark frowned. A dog hidden inside human skin? The spiritualist nodded approvingly. I almost jumped out of my seat. Human skin? What human skin? Mark and the spiritualist looked at me like I was an idiot. I looked at my legs and finally understood what they meant. But how do you know it's a dog inside? I took the X-rays out of the paper bag and placed them on the table. One look, and I nearly threw up on the spot. The sandy substance Mark had described was actually insect eggs. Millions of tiny eggs covered 60% of the skin. As for Lucky's bones in the images, they were something between human and canine. Kiddo, which are you more afraid of, a pervert or a monster? I looked at the spiritualist, my expression one of pained agony. Do I have to choose? The spiritualist shook his head calmly. Nope. It's very possible this one is both. Hearing that, everything I'd experienced flashed through my mind. I sucked in a cold breath, truly feeling like I was up against something I couldn't guard against. Before leaving, the spiritualist handed me a bundle of talismans. Use these as you see fit. It has too much human energy, they might not work. Then he suddenly became serious. You can call the police if you want, but whatever you do, don't startle it. If the hair on your body starts growing wildly in a short period, then it's probably about to make its move. I looked down at my legs. So this was its warning to me? I took Mark back to my place. The spiritualist suggested that the aura of the real Lucky was stronger in my house. This meant Mark was more likely to dream of him again, and perhaps even get more crucial information. If we knew the monster's name or appearance, we could find specific information about it in the spiritualist's stacks of books. Knowing what it had been through would tell us how to deal with it. I thought spiritualists just, waved their hands and chanted spells to solve problems. That night, I handed a blanket to Mark, who was making a makeshift bed on the floor. Lucky was locked in the kitchen. I slept on the sofa, and Mark slept on the floor. Mark rubbed his tired eyes and looked at me mournfully. I haven't had a good night's sleep in ages. I'm going to bed. I turned over and mumbled. Let's switch. I'm actually kind of envious of you. Every night, you get to see the real Lucky. I can't believe it took me over 6 months after he died to find out. Thinking about it, my eyes welled up, and I wiped away a tear. Okay. A male voice echoed in the empty living room. I burst into a tearful smile. Really? Mark, I thought you were asleep. Mark didn't react, just turned over, frowning. He mumbled something. What? I didn't say anything. My heart skipped a beat, and my gaze instinctively shifted to the bedroom door. The bedroom door was making a clicking sound. I shrank under the covers, only my eyes peeking out. The bedroom door opened. In the moonlight, a long, upright shadow stretched across the floor. I held my breath, terrified of making even the slightest sound. A dog, walking upright, emerged from the bedroom. It lay down next to Mark. This dog, which I'll tentatively call Lucky, expertly found a pack of cigarettes. Then, with its dog paws, it lit a lighter and started puffing away. It was too bizarre. Smoke filled the air, a choking smell permeating the room. Mark coughed twice and turned over, frowning. Can't you smoke in the bathroom? I didn't dare make a sound, watching as Lucky turned its head and stared intently at Mark. We're screwed. It really stinks. Mark mumbled, still not opening his eyes. Lucky seemed annoyed. It bared its fangs and slowly opened its mouth towards Mark's neck. Snap. A small tearing sound. It seemed like the thread I had picked open on the dog's back had been torn further by its movement. Just as I thought it would use its paw to scratch its back, Lucky suddenly lay down. The dog's body was like a leather suit, and something writhed beneath the skin. I watched as the dog's head deflated like a balloon. Next were its front paws. It's not going to crawl out, is it? I choked back a scream, my body tensing up until I was trembling slightly. A long tearing sound, and a hole appeared in the skin on the dog's back. A withered, dark hand reached out. The fingers had extra fleshy growths, looking like a cross between a human hand and a dog's paw. Its fingers fumbled around, then pulled a needle from its torso. It began to sew along the tear in the skin, stitch by stitch, until it had completely sewn itself back inside. After a brief adjustment, it had put on the skin suit again. The cigarette in its dog paw was almost burnt out. Lucky took a couple of drags, then stood up, preparing to go back to the bedroom. Buzz buzz. The phone next to my pillow suddenly vibrated. Some junk app was sending notifications in the middle of the night. My gaze uncontrollably shifted for a split second. When I looked back, I was face to face with Lucky. Its glassy, bead-like dog eyes showed no emotion. Okay. It said, then, seemingly satisfied, it panted with its tongue out and walked towards me. Its once cute, fluffy, chubby body now looked incredibly creepy. With every step, its thick, fleshy body wobbled. It walked towards me step by step, constantly repeating, okay. I kept my eyes open, not daring to move. Closing my eyes now would be too obvious, so I just hoped it hadn't noticed. Lucky stopped in front of me and leaned down. It stuck out its tongue, panting heavily as it stared at me. Thick saliva dripped onto my face. I suddenly remembered what the spiritualist had said. This monster couldn't really be a pervert, could it? My skin crawled, and I tensed up, ready to run. Before I could react, a large, red tongue licked my face. No, I can't startle it easily. I clutched the blanket tighter, agonizingly waiting for it to leave. After about a minute, I was practically suffocating from the saliva, and Lucky finally left. It lay down beside me and started rummaging through the backpack I'd taken to the hotel. After stealing a set of my underwear, it returned to the bedroom, satisfied. Once I confirmed it was gone, I turned over, gasping for air. Sleepless, I only drifted off towards dawn. Ah! Hearing a scream, I groggily fell off the sofa. What happened? I frantically looked around, only to see Mark's deathly pale face. The dark circles under his eyes were terrifyingly deep. He must have woken up from a nightmare. When Mark looked around and saw me, he jumped again. Why do you look so exhausted too? I ran a hand through my messy hair, the memory of last night making my heart pound. Mark was about to say something else, but I pointed towards the bedroom. Then we hailed a cab and rushed to the spiritualist's place. On the way, both of us were yawning. Mark covered his eyes, his voice hoarse. That vet clinic where you took Lucky for his accident 6 months ago, is it still open? I shook my head. Strangely enough, it closed down right after he was treated. Mark looked thoughtful. Your follow-up consultations, were they all done via text? Hearing that, I immediately perked up. How did you know? Did you really put a camera in my house? You even know that? Mark gave a bitter smile, then looked at me with a complicated expression. Aren't you going to ask what I dreamed about last night? At the spiritualist's place, Mark recounted his dream. My mouth hung open, and I was too stunned to speak for a long time. You're saying the clinic closed because the vet died? Mark nodded. I shook my head repeatedly. No, the vet messaged me back after that. He didn't say anything more, just sipped his tea. The spiritualist poured me a cup of tea and handed it over. In any case, you haven't seen him in person again, right? Mark's dream was from the real Lucky's perspective. It showed what happened after Lucky was critically injured in the car accident and taken into the operating room. Lucky lay on the sickbed and saw a giant poodle walk in behind the operating table. Suddenly, the poodle's back split open. Lucky wanted to escape but couldn't move, forced to watch everything unfold. From the gash in the poodle's back, a gaunt monster crawled out. Its skin was black and shiny, with a dog's face but a human-like torso. The vet, who was about to operate, fell to the ground, thick fur rapidly growing all over his body. A few minutes later, the vet had turned into a fur-covered, desiccated corpse. The monster pulled a handful of insect eggs from the dog's skin and stuffed them into the vet's mouth. In just a few seconds, the vet's torso shriveled rapidly. The monster used a scalpel to cut the human skin. Then, using processed human sinew as thread, it sewed a dog's skin resembling Lucky's, like making a doll. It then disposed of the remaining scraps, along with Lucky, using the insect eggs. A wave of cold horror washed over me. To think I had lived with such a thing for 6 months. My poor Lucky, to die such a horrible death. But, why go to all that trouble? It didn't seem logical. It would have been much easier to just possess a dog's skin or a human skin directly. Mark thought for a moment and said, because it needs human skin, but also a dog's appearance. The spiritualist chimed in. Indeed, this monster reminds me of a few things. The old man chuckled and brought out a plate of pastries. Have you ever heard of a ritual to transform a person into a dog? He chewed on a pastry and said slowly. The skin is flayed, then applied to the afflicted area along with medicinal herbs and dog skin. Over time, this person transforms from human to dog. Mark seemed to have a sudden realization. So, this is a dog that wants to become human using this method? I shook my head, smiling faintly. I don't think so. I think it's a human who wants to become human. The spiritualist looked between us and then pointed at me. Kiddo, you guessed right this time. Seeing Mark's bewildered face, a surge of pride welled up in me. Because a necessary condition for the monster is to know the method of skinning a dog and turning a person into a dog. Only a human could know that. But its appearance is dog-like, which means it's a human who was turned into a dog by that method. Mark's eyes widened slightly, and he smiled as he sipped his tea. The spiritualist, meanwhile, put a hand on his lower back and slowly stood up, fetching a stack of books from the bookshelf. Now that we know the monster's purpose, we just need to find its origin. The old man handed us another piece of paper. Based on our experiences over the past few days, Mark and I pieced together a portrait of the creature. Just as I was rubbing my hands together, ready to pore over the books, the spiritualist patted my shoulder. "Go back. You need to watch it." I choked, about to speak, when I saw a flash of astonishment in Mark's eyes. I looked in a bronze mirror and froze. The part of my face the monster had licked was now covered in white fur. Covering my face, I rushed home. I never expected that when I opened the door, I'd bump right into a standing Lucky. I froze for a moment, then quickly recovered. "Lucky, where are you?" I rubbed my eyes, fumbling around. My face randomly grew a lot of fur today, I can't see anything now. After a brief silence, I heard the sound of Lucky running. Woof woof woof. I smiled and petted his head as usual, but my smile was stiff. Sitting on the sofa, I quickly found a razor and removed the fur from my face. The monster was likely suspicious now my home wasn't safe. But if I left now and the monster decided to kill me, I'd turn into a furry, desiccated corpse. There had to be a way to let Mark and the spiritualist know my status without arousing the monster's suspicion. In the live stream chat, comments were flying. "Christina, long time no stream. Yeah, we miss you and Lucky. Lucky got fatter again." On my phone screen, I looked absolutely terrible. Lucky was fatter again. The number of insect eggs inside him had probably increased. This was not good news. Long time no see. Today's stream theme is reactions again. Comments scrolled by, layer after layer. "We want to see the play dead prank." "Yeah, Christina, we want to see you play dead for Lucky." I stared at the screen, cold sweat about to drip. Play dead? If I did that now, I'd really die. I had to pretend I didn't hear, rigidly hugging Lucky while scrolling through videos of handsome guys and beautiful women. Lucky was acting strangely today. He didn't react to the attractive people, just kept staring at me. I stared at the screen, forcing an occasional awkward laugh. In reality, all I could think about was when Mark would find out the monster's origin. Because the stream was so boring and I wasn't engaging with the audience, the viewer count quickly plummeted. But I didn't care at all. In this situation, just being able to stream was a miracle. Rustle rustle. Cradling Lucky, facing the camera, a strange sound came from my body. My hand silently crept to Lucky's back. I wanted to brush it off, but I felt something truly awful. The stitches on Lucky's back had burst open. Pressing down, it felt sandy. It was insect eggs. My body went rigid. I felt like I was on death's door. At some point, the chat started scrolling rapidly again. "Look, the streamer's face. What's going on? Why is she growing fur? OMG, is that a filter? So scary." I subconsciously touched my face, and feeling the furriness, I knew things were really bad. "It's a filter, guys, it's a filter." To avoid getting my stream banned, I quickly shouted a clarification. Fur was growing all over my body, layer by layer. I forced a smile for the screen. Haven't Mark and the spiritualist found anything yet? If they don't find it soon, I'm going to die. Woof 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 woof. Lucky seemed to sense my fear and barked happily. Then, it jumped off me and expertly, casually, stood up. The chat went crazy again. Did that dog just stand up? That's Lucky for you, he's really like a person. OMG, that's not a person inside, is it? When they saw it skillfully open a drawer and light a cigarette with its dog paw, the chat was scrolling so fast I couldn't read it anymore. An insect egg fell from the tear onto the floor. Observant viewers noticed this detail. What was that? Something fell off the dog? I saw Lucky turn its head, and a bad feeling washed over me. Just as I was about to turn the camera, the stitches on its back burst open. Countless tiny insect eggs rained down onto the floor like falling beads. Inside the dog-shaped skin, the monster writhed. Until a black spine, thin as a fishbone, emerged from the skin. The viewers were dumbfounded. OMG, what is that thing? Is that a dog? I wouldn't give up. I pointed the camera at my face, and just as I was about to explain, the live stream was banned. I clutched my phone and slowly backed away. It's over. I'm really dead this time. The monster crawled completely out of the skin, and I finally saw what it looked like. Outwardly, it resembled a skinny, tall, black chihuahua. I pulled the talismans the spiritualist had given me from my pocket. Don't come any closer. I have charms. The monster yipped excitedly twice, then started to haltingly mimic me. You, don't come closer, woof woof woof. It grabbed a handful of bugs from the floor and threw them at me. I quickly dodged. The spiritualist's talismans were, as expected, completely useless. The monster prepared to pounce on me, but the door banged open. Don't move. Mark rushed in, holding a bag full of yellow talismans and protection charms, scattering them at the monster. Saved. The yellow talismans fluttered down, but the monster showed no fear. It even rolled around on the floor happily, like a dog. Where's the spiritualist? Mark frowned, tirelessly throwing charms. He went back to get his magical artifacts. I was afraid you'd die, so I came to save you first. I was touched, yet a little exasperated. If you're coming to save me, at least bring something useful. The monster played in the yellow talismans for a while, then quickly turned its murderous intent back towards us. Tragically, it had us cornered, with nowhere to run. Woof woof woof. It barked, its emaciated body lunging at us. My mind was a complete mess. Am I really going to die here? In the nick of time, an idea flashed into my head. You want to become human, right? I shouted, and the monster seemed to pause at the sound. My heart was about to leap out of my throat. I have a way to make you human. The monster bared its teeth and, hearing my words, turned and lunged at Mark. That's not what I meant. I ran to the kitchen, grabbed a cleaver, and frantically hacked at the monster, but it was unfazed. Woof woof woof. Suddenly, a small white shadow darted in from outside, pouncing on the monster and tearing at it. It was Mark's Maltese, Snowy. There was some blood, from who knows where, staining its fur red. Its tiny body, fearless, threw itself in front of Mark. The monster was actually scared back. It turned its head and set its sights on me again. Countless insect eggs rolled past me. I saw tiny insects hatching from them. The monster grabbed a handful of eggs and pried open my mouth. It's over, I'm really going to die this time. I squeezed my eyes shut and pushed the monster away with all my might. Ting-a-ling-ling. A clear bell rang, and a faint, fragrant scent drifted through the air. The weight on me disappeared, and I opened my eyes. The spiritualist was here. With each ring of the bell, the monster shrieked in terror. In less than 5 minutes, the spiritualist had subdued the monster. Mark and I could finally live in peace. After it was all over, Mark told me the story behind the monster. Years ago, there was an embroidery workshop with only women, no men. The owner at the time had a soft heart and took in 2 homeless men to learn the craft. But then she discovered them peeking at the women in the outhouse. The owner was furious and, in a rage, used dog skins to turn them into dog men. After that, they roamed the human world, using human skin to make dog skins, wanting to turn back into humans. No wonder that monster always carried a needle. I nodded, munching on a snack. And such good embroidery skills, the suture lines were so fine and dense. Mark petted Snowy, who was in his lap, gently touching its little chipped tooth. Yeah, my poor Snowy. Perhaps sensing Mark was in danger, Snowy had gnawed its way out of its cage and run to save him. It even chipped a tooth. But the little snaggletooth is kind of cute. I petted Snowy's head and smiled. There's one thing I never told you. What? Mark blinked. Do you remember asking me? Since I don't understand dog language, how did I communicate with Lucky? I paused for a moment, then nodded. Right, how did you two actually talk? Mark smiled, a little sadly. He got off the sofa and gently drew on the floor with his finger. Every time I dreamed, it was for at least 3 hours. Lucky wasn't very good at writing. Every word I passed on to you, he drew it with his paw. Stroke by stroke, on the floor in the dream. I suddenly felt a lump in my throat. I remembered that night I fled to the hotel, crying my eyes out. That night, I dreamed of Lucky for the first time. He was carrying his favorite toy, circling around me. With his dog paw, he etched words onto the floor, one stroke at a time. Be happy.